mean, I don't even know how she can get any votes, frankly, if you want to know the truth. And frankly, she's not getting too many.
Right.
But
and
she's got problems. She's got a lot of problems. You look at this crazy Bernie character, you look at him and you see what's going on, and she's got some difficulty. There's no question about it.
Donald Trump earlier today on Fox and Friends saying that just about everything about Hillary is troubled. And he's calling the Democrat race, quote, a horrible thing. To talk about politics from the left and right, we're pleased to be joined via Skype from Raleigh, North Carolina, my old stomping grounds, by Republican media strategist and ad maker Marc Rotterman. Marc was also a member of Ronald Reagan's presidential transition team back in 1980. And from Newsmax, Washington, the chairman of Cozen O'Connor Public Strategies, Marc Alderman. Good Democrat that he is. This Marc is a former member of the Obama-Biden presidential transition team. Gentlemen, as we take the transition, let me begin with a phone call. It's a topic we took up before the break with my old friends from Congress, but it still pertains now. Back to the phones at 1-877-NEWSMAX to Atlanta, Georgia for Howard. Howard, I understand you want to talk about Donald Trump and his tax returns.
Yes, sir. And Congressman Hayworth, thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thank you, Howard. You can just call me JD.
JD, I listen to Steve Mossberg. I listen to Dennis Michael Lynch. You're about the only news station that's got enough guts to put out there, other than what the other news networks out there are in. Seem like they're allies to the Democratic Party, and I just can't figure out what's going on with them all jumping on Donald Trump. You know, and you just mentioned it a while ago about Romney. You know, I think he hadn't filed his taxes in 10 years. You know, there we go. There's the double standard that you're looking at now. And there's one thing about Donald Trump. He can take whatever the Democrats dish at him because he can throw it right back at them.
That's an interesting point you make, Howard. We thank you for all your kind words about Newsmax TV. As we say around here, we're not the media. We're Newsmax TV. Let's get the takes of the gentleman who joined us here tonight. Since we're talking about basically Republican on Republican dispute, Marc Rotterman, let me start with you. Do you have any insight into why Mitt Romney is going after Donald Trump hammer and tongs?
Well, you know, I think he's a holdout. I mean, he's the last kind of man, never Trump standing. The party's unifying. I'd remind Governor Romney that Donald Trump has gotten almost 11 million primary votes, more than he ever got as a nominee, and there's 7 primaries left. I don't think it's helpful to the party. You see Mitch McConnell reaching out to him. You see a lot of congressmen reaching out to Donald Trump. He is the presumptive nominee and, frankly, the leader of the party now. So I think it's very destructive what Romney's doing at this point. But at the end of the day, it's a 24-hour news cycle, and folks will forget what he said 2 days from now.
Or will they? Let me turn to Marc Alderman, who must enjoy, even with the difficulties on the Democrat side, Hillary versus Bernie, to have Trump basically lock this thing down and Mitt Romney trying to pick the lock and giving talking points to the Democrats. Is this a PR gift, politically speaking, to the Dems, Marc Alderman?
Congressman, I think that Governor Romney is right. I think that Donald Trump should release his tax returns. But I think that this is as much a gift to Donald Trump as it is to Hillary Clinton. I think that when Governor Romney goes after the presumptive nominee, it only strengthens Trump's standing among his base. And we'll have to wait until the fall to see whether it makes any difference to the other half of the country that hasn't had a chance to pass judgment yet on candidate Trump.
If Howard is still on the line, Howard, you still there? I may not have Howard, but he'll call back because he is a good viewer of Newsmax TV. Someone who we do have electronically via reproduction, that is in tape terms, is the lady who was supposed to be coronated as the Democrat nominee, the aforementioned Hillary Clinton. She was on the stump in Camden, New Jersey. I believe this was last night when she took rhetorical aim at Donald Trump.
I am not going to respond to the insults and the attacks coming from Donald Trump in this campaign. He can say whatever he wants to say about me personally. I will stand up and fight for and speak out for every American that he attacks and he insults.
All right. Now, Marc Alderman, I got to ask you about this. Is this Hillary? Now, you might not see it this way, but when Trump says, hey, she's playing the woman card, is that what she's doing right there?
I think what Trump is doing is playing the man card. The premise of his attack on her is that it's an advantage to be a woman in this country and politics and this economy. I don't think that the 51% of the country who are women who have had to face discrimination in their lives are going to agree with that. So he is welcome to bring on the man card. She doesn't need to play the woman card, but JD, she does need to fight back. Her standing up there and saying that she's not going to respond isn't going to make it till November, Congressman.
Well, it is interesting. And of course, Marc Rotterman, let's not forget, even though with the advantage of the superdelegates, she's still got to worry about Bernie Sanders, who won resoundingly last night in West Virginia. Before taking aim at Donald Trump, doesn't Hillary need to do something about the Vermont senator?
Well, I think so. She's got a burn problem. Let's face it. 4 out of 10 Bernie supporters say they'd vote for Donald Trump. There's no enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton out there. She's underperforming. She's not getting the Democratic votes that, say, Barack Obama did. I think she'll do better in the primaries going forward because there's more minority vote, JD. But the truth is, she was supposed to have this wrapped up. She doesn't. We were supposed to be the party, the Republicans that had a contested convention, and we're unifying right now. Donald Trump is putting people on like Rudy Giuliani. He's listening to Newt Gingrich. He's putting his team together for a general election, and she's still out there fighting Bernie Sanders, a socialist.
Well, it's interesting.
JD,
Did you have something? Well,
we've seen this before. This is deja vu all over again. Our party went through this in 2008. It was harder and it was more hostile then, and we came together. Bernie Sanders is going to be there with Secretary Clinton as the candidate in the fall.
All right. Well, you talk about 2008, and we only have about a minute left, but there was something interesting earlier today. Our current Vice President, Joe Biden, opened up about whether or not he should have run for president. Let's look and listen to what the Veep had to say.
I had planned on running. It's an awful thing to say. I think I would have been the best president, but it was the right thing, not just for my family, for me. No one should ever seek the presidency unless they're able to devote their whole heart and soul and passion into just doing that.
Gentlemen, time won't allow me to get individual comments from both of you, but I can just tell you this. So often we look beyond the personal costs of politics. And with what happened with Joe Biden's son, obviously that made it tough, and that's why he deferred from the campaign. We're going to ask both Marcs to stay around, and we're going to have you back too. And don't forget, we'd love to get your phone calls, have you as part of the conversation at 1-877-Newsmax. That's 1-877-639-7629. You and I have talked a lot about Paul Ryan, the current House Speaker who may harbor presidential ambitions. But as we look back into history, it's worth noting that all Gerald Ford wanted was to become Speaker of the House. Yet that wasn't meant to be. Time and chance made Gerald Ford president. President Ford, the subject of tonight's American Moment.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
It was a stirring moment. Never before had a president resigned and another man risen to the nation's highest office. On August 9th, 1974, Gerald R. Ford was sworn in as the country's 38th president. It was a time in the nation rocked by scandal. The same day, August 9th, 1974, the House Judiciary Committee passed articles of impeachment against then-President Richard M. Nixon. That same day, Richard Nixon resigned, and Vice President Ford was hastily sworn in as Commander-in-Chief by Chief Justice Warren Burger. Soon after taking office, Gerald Ford ended the Watergate prosecution by granting Richard Nixon a full and unconditional pardon to the fallen president with this decree.
My fellow Americans, our long national nightmare is over.
On October 17, 1974, President Ford agreed to appear before Congress to defend his historic decision.
I was absolutely convinced then, as I am now, that if we had had this series, an indictment, a trial, a conviction, and anything else that transpired after that, that the attention of the President, the Congress, and the American people would have been diverted from the problems that we have to solve.
Historians have lauded President Ford's political courage in granting the pardon, but the move was widely believed to have cost him the presidency in 1976, when he was defeated by former Georgia Governor Jimmy Carter.